All right, greetings everyone. Ray Landis here with yet another guitar adventure, and tonight I want to talk with you about this neck and this body. What I have here is the disassembled guitar that was given to me by my son-in-law. He's getting it back, but it's not going to be the same when he gets it back. He said that he knows that when I'm working on a guitar, that's when I'm in my happy zone. So he says, take this, enjoy it, have your fun with it, do whatever you want to it, but I do want it back. So I have some parts and some things that I'm going to take out of my archive. And the only thing that'll be the same about this guitar is it will have an Indian Laurel neck, and it will have this white Strat body. The only thing I haven't taken off to this point is the tremolo claw. Other than that, this thing has been totally disassembled. I'm going to show you the parts that I've got with it, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to rebuild it. So this is my first time with one of the older Bullet Strats, taking it down to its foundation, all the way down to the studs, as they say, and rebuilding it. We can rebuild it. We have the technology. So I hope you enjoy this video. Stay tuned. All right, so what we've got here is a bird's eye view of all of the Squier Strat Bullet parts disassembled and just laying out here in an array. And I didn't show the dismantling process because I was so excited to get it. I just wanted to take it apart and find out a couple things that I needed to know to be able to make the changes I'm hoping for. This was an HSS configuration. You can see it's a one-ply pick guard. There's no cover on the humbucker, and these pickups are most certainly ceramic pickups. My main thing that I wanted to find out was whether or not this body was routed for an HSH, because that's, I think, where we're going to go with it. Looks like it might have shielding paint. I have not checked it with the meter yet to see if it's conductive, but we'll find that out. And I'm looking at the parts. This is one of the lightest blocks that I've ever seen. 3 springs. The saddles look like they are the lowest quality that you can possibly get. That is the bridge plate. I'm going to reuse the screws because of the holes in the body, and then of course the neck plate, and I may replace that as well. The neck is very dry, and the neck is very just in need of some TLC, and we're gonna remove the nut, probably put new string trees on, and these tuners are going to go. We're going to try to put something else better on there. I've got a couple options I'm looking at, but we're going to take the neck and do a little work to it first. This is just a 21 fret neck. It's got some markings on the back, probably some dates there. 26 of 20. Let's see, it looks like, let's turn it around. Looks like June or July 26th of 2012. All right, well, I've got it here on my desk, the neck, and I'm going to try to kind of disassemble the remaining part of the headstock, get the tuners off of it, and kind of prep this out. We're going to try to roll the fingerboard edges on this. And it doesn't feel like the frets are rough. We don't have a problem with that. I think what we more would like to do is roll these fingerboard edges so that they're more comfortable. We're going to take the nut, we're going to remove that, and then we're going to take all the tuners and remove those and kind of see what we're looking at. And again, I may take the logo off. We're going to replace the string trees, and the nut, and all the tuners and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now and take that apart. Okay, so we just got these tuners off. One more screw, and we'll see what they look like. That's one. Trying to fight me a little bit. Alright, wondering if the new tuners we want to put on are going to cover these holes. We'll find that out here pretty quick. Alright, so this is a set of classic split shaft tuners. They're unbranded. I'm wondering how they'll line up. Let's take a look here if they go in. Oh, they go right in. Let's just, we'll line them up, see what they look like. Looks like they're going to go. And it looks like they're going to cover up the existing holes as well. So that'll be really nice. Alright, it looks like they'll actually go in. I do have some bushings, but they look almost identical to the ones that are in there. So I may just leave those in rather than try to fight them out and be surprised that there'll have to be some other work done. They work fine with these, so yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to go with that. All right, we're going to see if we can get this nut out of here. Oh, look at that. Looks like it was glued, and that's definitely not bone. That's like plastic all the way. So let's see if we can maybe get a bone nut, or I'm thinking maybe a brass nut. Okay, well, we did get the original nut to come out in one piece, and give you a little idea how that looks, how that nut fit in there, and how it kind of looks. And then here is the brass nut. I've been able to carefully, with some small files, these actually came from Harbor Freight, some different ones that came in the collection. And of course, rather than try to sand or file this down at first, and there may have to be some adjustment, we're able to use the files to get this to seat in there now. But the string spacing looks good, and I think we can get the depth adjusted with the nut files. And if we have a little tiny bit of hangover on one side, I think we could file that or sand that so that we don't have an issue with it. But it looks like the string spacing is pretty good, well within acceptable limits. I think we can get that to work really nicely, so that's what we're going to go with. Alright, so I want to do a little bit of sanding on this neck, and some guys would probably frown on my method on this particular thing, but I just like taking one of these. It's a 320 block. I'm just kind of sanding down the edge of it. I'm just kind of rounding off the edge. Doesn't really hurt it. You can mess it up if you did too much of that. But I want to be able to get this edge rounded off a little bit, so we're going to do that. So I've been using this Diodario polishing system, and it really works well. It actually comes in a pack with multiple cloths, and in the pack is a piece that you can take and use for a guard, and it's actually held up pretty well. It's cheap cardboard, but I've used it, multiple times, and you can cover up the fretboard, and then you can use these cloths, over and over again, and they really do a good job, and they clean up the frets really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Basically, you just cover it up, and you just shine it up with a little bit of elbow grease, and you can see it really makes a big difference. See, it shines. So this is the Fender Custom Shop fingerboard remedy, and on a bare wood and similar type neck you can use this, and it really does a nice job. It doesn't take a whole lot. See, we'll shake it up a little bit. So put a little bit on each fret. Doesn't take a whole lot. It really goes a long way. Then I'm going to use a paper towel and just rub it around. I may need some more. I have more. Yeah, it really does spread around pretty good. I'm going to rub it on and just using a paper towel, make it easy so I can throw it away. You can see that really does almost immediately nourish the wood. All you need is a drop on each fret. And that works pretty good. We'll let it sit for a little bit after we rub it on, and then we'll wipe off the excess. It sinks into the wood and nourishes the wood and gets it kind of back to flush. And I'll put a little bit along the side too, because sometimes you forget that part. Yep, missed any spots, we can kind of go back and hit them. Yep, sinking in pretty good. Don't need too much of this. Alright, so that was the edge I rounded off. It's definitely going to need a little bit of TLC. Kind of give it a clean, fresh look. Alright, now I'm going to go back and just kind of wipe off the excess. In the process, this will spread around in spots where I might have missed. Looks really good, actually. Look at that. Not a real complicated process. I did try this neck out before, and the frets were good. So thank goodness I don't have to do a fret job on this, or a dressing or anything. I'm going to try to just avoid that. I don't, unless it's really bad and I don't have the ability to adjust things, I don't like to necessarily go and create the problem with having to recrown all the frets and level them. Now, sometimes you can't get out of it, but if it's not causing any problem and you're not having a lot of buzz, they don't have to be perfectly level. As long as they're not, making, if they create a problem, then you have to level them. But I don't like to dive into that unless it's necessary. I've got a lot of guitars that have, with the fret rocker, a little bit of motion, but it doesn't matter when you play. You can't tell. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't buzz. So why go into that when you don't have to? Some guys just have to have it perfect, and that's just tell you up front, nothing is perfect. It's always something that's a little bit one way or the other. That looks pretty good. That looks really good, actually. Way better than it was. The tuners will fit, and they will also cover all the holes except for this one. There's one hole at the very top. So I'm going to take a toothpick. It's almost the same color as the wood of the neck. And I'll take a little bit of this tight bond, if I can take just a tiny bit of that. Take a little bit of that right there. Just push that into that hole. Really the same size as a toothpick. Just clean up the excess. Toothpick's one of my favorite tools. Alright, so I've got my drill bit marked, and we're going to go ahead and drill the holes for new tuner. This is a tool kit that I got from Harbor Freight, one of my favorite little tool kits. It's got all the stuff in there I need to intonate, do little jobs like this, and makes it really nice. Sometimes a little bit of candle wax really helps. You just kind of rub the threads on the candle wax, and then when you put the screw in, it's got a little bit of lubricant to kind of help it go in. Alright, so the last couple screws look like they're going in okay. I'm going to put this one in with a little bit of wax. And these are quite an upgrade from the tuners that were in there. And most of the holes were covered. Only one I think was left visible, but we were able to fill that with a toothpick. And these look really good. These are like the classic split shaft tuners. Alright, these turned out really nice. And it's going to give us that classic look with the split shaft. Didn't have to do anything to the bushings. They fit. Everything worked perfectly. And we got the fretboard all cleaned up. We've got the frets shined up. And we're going to go ahead and put that brass nut in. Alright, I'm going to put this brass nut on. Got everything else pretty much fixed up the way that I'm hoping it will work great. We got the split shaft tuners. We've got round string trees, just add a little different dimension to it. And got the fretboard all polished up. Rolled fingerboard edges, cleaned frets, nourished fretboard. And we just need to put this brass nut on. And brass nut fits perfect. It slides right in. Just need to put a little dab of super glue in there to hold it in place. Okay, I have decided to put some shielding inside of the body cavity on this bullet Stratocaster, and that is something I kind of maybe wasn't going to do, but then decided I would for a couple reasons, and I'll mention those in just a moment. I want to show you the back. I've put a piece of that foam inside, so when I get the tremolo hooked back up, it's going to have a little bit of muffling so that the springs don't make any sound. And the reason I decided to do the shielding is because I have an experimental pick guard I want to use, and this is one that I've actually had planned for a different build, but decided it would be really good for this one. So it seems to fit pretty well. So this pick guard has been wired with 500K pots,
And these are all Alnico style pickups. So this is the bridge that I am planning to use. I've got a Shorty Music Lily brass block 6 screw trem with, I have the arm that goes to this. It's one of the 6mm arms, and then I'm going to shine this up a little bit and put some really nice saddles on there. Okay, so I've got the tremolo installed and it does work. I've got a little less clearance than I would like to have in the back section there. Alright, so one thing I do really like when I install a neck on a guitar is that these screws go right through, that way they bite into the neck and the screw actually only connects to the neck, not to the body, so it's able to become tighter. Okay, so we've got the neck reinstalled and the bridge and the tremolo is installed. So everything seems good so far, except it's a little tight, and the fit and finish on the parts, being upgrades put onto a Bullet, which is definitely a budget version of the Stratocaster. I've put a piece of electrical tape there to shield the tabs on the switch because they just fit and we don't want to short anything out. But we're going to try. Okay, we now have the ground wire secured. If I can get rid of that glare. Ground wire is secured. Tremolo is kind of set in place. Neck is installed. Tuners. Alright, so we're going to now flip this over. And we have the jack installed. Just have to wipe a few things off. And the pick guard is installed. So looking good so far. Alright, it's time to string it up and get everything all dialed in. Got the brass nut there going on. Got the round string trees, the split shaft tuners. Cleaned up the neck a little bit. Polished up the frets. Put this pick guard on, which I had actually set aside for another guitar, but I decided to put it on this one. When I first put it in, I ended up finding out that the body cavity was so shallow that the back of the switch actually touched the shielding, so I had to bend the tabs a little bit and then put a little electrical tape on the bottom of the route there over top of the shielding tape to be able to make sure that pickups work. Everything works. I was able to get some nice bent steel saddles.